G'day, and thanks for joining Woodworking Masterclass. I'm Steve, and welcome to my workshop. This series we've been making a period style side table with Cabriole legs and Dovetail drawer constructions. Now this is the final in this series, and it's time to put it all together. We've glued the tops up, we've made the carcasses, we've made drawers, made Cabriole legs, and now it's just time to assemble it all and put those finishing touches in. First of all, on the finishing touch, I've done a few things off camera. One was I've cut a rebate in the back of the carcass. That's to take a dust panel. All I used was a router, which I can't find. Here we go. Oop. With a rebate cutter on it, just set for the right depth to cut around there. And then you clean the corners up with a chisel and possibly a hand router if you got one, just for getting in there and cleaning it up. That gives you nice crisp corners. So we'll finish that bit up later on, but right now I want to make the apron. Now I went over to the router and I routed a bit of square stock with this profile. At the same time, I cut the top to size and used the same profile. So when we've got them on top of each other, they're going to look pretty grouse, I reckon. They still use that word? Okay, so what I've got to do, first of all, is cut a mitre on the apron. And I want the apron to sit on this way. So I'll start off on this side. No, I'll start out on this side. And I'll mark where I want my first mitre cut to be. If you've got a docking saw that's accurate, by all means use it. If you've got a framing guillotine, use it. If you've got a table saw, use it. I can't afford any of those, and I like the old hand tools. So, we put this in here. Oh, it's got to cover the right way. Even a battery operated saw will let you down, but one of these won't. Okay, there's my mitre. Pop it in the vise. Very closed mouth on my block plane. Just clean it up so it's nice and crisp. Get any of the furry bits off, and there we have it. Now I set that up on my carcass, and I work out how much of projection of this quirk I want. And I don't want that much, about 1.5 mil would look nice, I reckon. And then I mark it right on this corner. And then I do the same procedure. Cut that and clean it up. For the sides, I use the same method, only I leave the sides a little bit longer. I've got a set I did earlier, and you can see that they overhang a couple of mil. Again, that's for if you miscut on the front or the angle's not true, then you've got a little bit to play with and you can continue to cut your angles without wasting all that timber. So we'll just put this on. I pre-drill and countersunk. If you're using self-drilling, that's fine. But I've got a lot of slot screws over, so I use those. I always use a little bit of soap when I'm putting screws in. It helps lubricate the drill thread going in. So I'll just put this on. Line up all the holes. Whoops, forgot my soap. Now when I come to put the sides on, yeah, it would like nice to be all square, but as I said, we're working with natural timber, and sometimes that doesn't quite do what it's meant to do. So I put the first one in, and before I screw the second one in, I check along here to make sure I've got an even showing of that little quirk. Once you get that right, just set the screws, which I'll set shortly. Just put these two in. Same thing. I put the front one in, check to make sure I've got the same amount of quirk showing. Oops. Use a normal screwdriver for this. When you're putting these side ones in and you're tightening, actually put pressure on the screw inward, and that pulls the corner in. Same with that front. And then set the screws so they're all facing the same way. And then you're going to have to cut another piece to go on the back. So it lines up with there. Okay, I'll screw those in later on. No, I might as well do it now. And then what I want to do is just dress the drawer up a little bit. And what I'll do for that is make some cock beading. Going the other way, wouldn't it? If there's two ways to do it, I'll find both ways. Dress the screws. By the way, if anyone's out there and they've got some 1¼ by 8 old-fashioned slot heads, I'd be interested. All right, that's the apron set up. Now let's move on to the cock beading on the drawer. Again, you can use a router bit to make this, or you can use a Stanley 45 if you've got one. It's just made on a piece of timber and rounded over, and then I slice that rounded bit off with a bandsaw, and then slowly or gently sand the back to clean it all up.
The stock I use is generally 3mm, and at this stage all the safety guards and feathers that I would normally use have been removed, just so you can see what I'm doing. So always remember safety first, follow manufacturer's instructions. The reason I have another fence here on my other fence is to stop any thin material sliding underneath and making it skewing off. But that's how you do cock beading.
Tell you what, we'll just make a little jig up. If you haven't got anything to cut 45 degrees with, here's a really great little idea. Oh, yes, I had a misspent youth. I do have a staple gun. Only for jigs though, not for putting furniture together. What you do, a bit of MDF, put your material in between so you get the right gap. And if you've got a combination square, put it up against the edge. Draw 45 degrees there. 45 degrees there. Put another one in here because I've missed it. There you go. Get your jap saw or back saw, and then just cut through that. Good thing about MDF, it goes really easily. Whoops. Okay. Now we can accurately cut miters on that, and after the break we'll cut them and we'll fit them to the drawer front. Okay? Look forward to seeing the other side. Hi, welcome back again. Just before the break, we made a little jig so we could cut 45s on some cock beading. The cock beading was made on thin material using a router and then cut off on a bandsaw. I'll show you how to fit it. Pop your drawer in the vise. I have to change glasses for this one. There we go. All right, now using the miter board we made up and a sharp chisel, slide it in, and it's just a shearing motion that you guide the blade from this face to that face, and by rocking you actually cut through the material. You can hear it, well I can hear it. It sounds like nice toast actually, first thing in the morning. There we go. And there we have a beautiful crisp mitre. No spent 6 bad on the jig. So line that up to the edge of your drawer, so it's right in the corner, and then put a little mark, again a little bit over what you want. You can see that. Then pop that in and just cut it a little bit fat, because you can always come back and pare it off later on. Keep that bit too, because we'll use that. Okay. In fact, it's not bad, a smidgen longer than we want, but that's okay because that's what we planned. So now you're just taking a whisker. I don't know what the metric equivalent to a smidgen is, but that's how much we take off. Just not much at all. There we go. Line that up. That's perfect. And then this, you can just check to make sure it's nice and square, which it is. Okay, now putting this on, people say, how do you put it on? Do you glue it on? Well, don't actually, you nail it on. What sort of nails do you use, I hear you ask. Dressmaker's pins. Direct from my wife's sewing room. Now, glasses. Snip the point off. So you've got a nail with a flat end. Always wear safety glasses too, because little bits of metal can fly out. And then with a little tack hammer, just punch it through. It's just starting to come through. Then leave, oh, I don't know, 3 mil. Put your hand over it and snip it. And there you have it. And then use the pin again. Depending on how long that one went. You want to see that? This will tell you what, it's a big budget, this program, using all these pins. Okay, we'll do it again. But these are the finer parts of furniture making that I think sadly is being lost today. So do about 3 or 4. I'll tell you what, I'm not having much luck with those pins, am I? It'll come out of my salary. That's it. I'll wash the wife's car in the weekend, it'll make up for it. And you can go right up to the very end. Providing it hasn't got a point on it, it'll be fine. But line it up and then just tap it in. And I did have here somewhere, there we go, just a nail that I've sharpened to the end, and it acts as a nice little punch, just to punch it in with. So So that's how it's done. And then do the same up the sides. What I would do is put both long pieces on first and then I do the sides. Or if you like, you can do one long piece aside, another long piece, and then leave a short side. But that's the process for cock beating. Now what I want to do is fit some drawer stops, because we made this drawer, and as you can tell, even though we did a good job on the drawer, if we push it, it'll go straight in. So we've got to have a couple of stops there to stop it from doing that. The best way to fit them, I've found over the years, is to put them in at this stage, not when the cabinet's completed. So all you need is a couple of small little bits of wood. Make sure they're nice and dressed and they don't look daggy. A couple of spacing blocks, whatever you think is fair thing. A dab of glue, which is up here. And what you do is make sure your drawer front is flush. In fact, I would fit these before I finish doing the cock beating. So see how that's nice and flush? You can feel it. Now just a little dab of glue. Whoops, not a litre, just a dab on both of those under the bench. Then, I don't know if you can see this, but I'm going to put a block in here, and then the drawer stop up against it. Can you get that shot? You see that? Okay. So do that to both ends and make sure that the drawer's set up. And I let that glue dry before I nail it. When it's dried, then you can pop a couple of nails in it to keep it fit. Okay, so that's our blocks done. The other thing we've got to do is make a back panel. Now I'm using about 3mm ply here. And as you can see, that's a nice fit. So we've got to screw that in. And the other thing is to make a dust panel for the bottom. Using the same ply, make sure it's got a nice face to it. Sand it so it's all nice and smooth, and then cut it so it fits in there nicely, and then we screw that in. And at the same time, we can take these off, because you haven't glued these yet, and cut them flush so they're nice and neat there. When we're gluing these, it's just a dab of glue on the corners and a dab of glue on the inside, and no glue up the side, for the same reason we did that with the kickers. All right, after the break, we'll get the legs on and we'll finish this off. See you then. G'day again. Okay, now we're fitting the legs. It's just a question of setting the leg in just underneath the corner of your apron, so it's not protruding, so it's just underneath. What I do is I use plugs, so I'm going to use a Forstner bit here to give me a recess to put a plug in. And these little plugs, you can buy a plug maker, and they just, I don't know, just add that extra little bit of finesse to your job. And then I go in with a very small bit, which is for my actual screw to bite into, and then I'll do a clearance hole on the ear so there's no pressure on it. Okay. Unfortunately, I haven't got any slot heads, so I'm using Phillips head, but still, a little bit of soap. Pop it in there and tighten it up. And then with these, just put a little bit of glue there, spin it around. There's a knockometer. And you just tap it in like so. So I'll put the other 3 legs on, And then all we've got to do is fit the top. So I'll be back shortly. Okay, so I've got all the legs on now. Dust panels in, back panels on. And I've cleaned all these lugs. Oh, got one more to go. I'll just finish this off. I've got a flexi saw here. It's just a question of taking that. These flexi saws are good because they don't really cut into your job. Might need a bit of a chisel just to pare that back. That's it, all nice and flush. Clean it up with a bit of sandpaper. So they're all nice and flush. All I've got to do now is put the last couple of screws in for the top. There we go. One more here. Because the opening's so small, you actually have to put these in on an angle. That's why I don't like those screwdrivers. Okay, so we've got 4 legs, carcass, back panel, apron, top. Let's just see if the drawer fits and we'll see if we've had a win. You can see I've finished doing the cock beading, so it's all the way around. Remember we learned about 3 dovetails at the back, half blind in the front. We've got a little bit of overhang there. That's nicely screwed in with 3 screws. Fingers crossed. We've got drawer stops in there. And look at that. Quite achievable. There's nothing difficult in that. Might take a bit of practice, takes a bit of perseverance. Tell you what, we'll see how we went. Let's move all this stuff off. Dog's deserted me again. Now remember, it doesn't seem like 6 weeks ago, does it? I said we were going to set out to make a period style piece. And the example I showed you had been stained, which is this one here. And the reason I haven't stained the one we've just made is because you might like to keep it natural colour, or you might have a stain of your own choice. There are various ways of staining. You can use spirit stains or water-based stains. The stain I actually use is what they call Van Dyke crystals, which they used to use in the 1700s. And this, believe it or not, is stained the one colour. It's got 2 coats of Van Dyke crystals on the body, 1 coat on the front of the drawer, and nothing around the cock beading. Again, this is made out of Queensland walnut, Queensland maple. I'll tell you what, I don't know if it'll show up, but let's just see how that looks compared to the drawing. And I don't know, I reckon that's pretty close. So if you're going to have a go at this, by all means, let your creative juices flow. Have a go. There's nothing wrong with getting it wrong. There's a lot of trees out there. It's just a matter of perseverance and trying. And it's amazing what you've learnt, or you can learn. You'll learn how to use spoke shaves, hand planes, how to read timber, how to use chisels, how to sharpen chisels, how drawers are constructed. So the next time you see something, you can look at it and say, well, would I have done it that way, or would I do it differently? But anyway, thanks for bearing with me for the first season. Love to hear from you if you've got any suggestions that you'd like to see made, or special items on the program that you'd like cleared up. Once again, if you miss any episodes, my website is woodworkingmasterclass.com. Send me an email. Love to hear from you. Keep it sharp, keep it safe, keep on creating, and remember, there's no such thing as bad wood, only good wood. All right? Thanks once again. I look forward to seeing you next season. Till now, it's Steve saying I'm going to pull the shed door down on the workshop for yet another night. All right, bye for now. Have fun.
Seasons 1 and 2 of Woodworking Masterclass are now available on DVD. Call 31 Digital on 07 30 10 7331 or head over to the Woodworking Masterclass Facebook page to order. Grab a copy of Woodworking Masterclass on DVD and remember to keep it sharp, but more importantly, keep it safe and enjoy your woodwork.
Hi, I'm Steve, Woodworking Masterclass, and Bob and I would love you to join us for the coming season. In that season, what we're doing is making boxes. One plywood veneer and solid edge, and one is solid timber with a raised panel lid. Along the way, I'll be sharing a lot of techniques and tips that I've found really useful in box making. So I look forward to having you in the shed soon.